हो रेकॉर्डेड स्टार्ट केले ना सर ठीक आहे चालेल हो ठीक आहे थँक्यू हो good afternoon. So yesterday we studied about impotency and frigidity, and today we are going to learn about sterility. So let us quickly revise. Potency is ability to perform sexual intercourse. Impotency is inability to perform sexual intercourse because due to inability to maintain penile erection. Okay. Causes we saw age, then there could be because of age, that is extremes of ages, malformations, and local acquired causes because of penile or testicular, which could be maldevelopment, non-development, intersex, phimosis, then loss of testes, undecided testes, filariasis, Klinefelter syndrome, diabetes mellitus, TB, and most common cause of impotency was psychological. This also we studied. We learned about cord hang, that is aversions of sexual intercourse with particular females, then bridehood impotence and sexual aversion disorders. Types of impotency were permanent and temporary. Then we learned about frigidity, its causes and medical legal importance. And in your practical, it will be asked to you by your opinion is a double negative sentence. So you have to say because psychological causes cannot be ruled out at the time of examination. That's why it is a double negative sentence. So now coming to sterility. So what is sterility? Sterility signifies inability to procreate. Sterility signifies inability to procreate. In males, sterility is inability to beget children or inability to fertilize the ovum. Okay, inability to beget children and inability to fertilize the ovum, that is male sterility. And then there is female sterility, that is failure to conceive. So you have to remember the difference between sterility and impotence. Sterility and impotence. Sterility is a physiological cause. Okay, physiological cause. Okay, impotency is anatomical. Right? Impotency is anatomical. Right? So sterility is inability to beget children or inability to fertilize the ovum. Types of sterility, they will be relative sterility or absolute sterility. Relative means diminished capacity to procreate children and can be corrected. Okay. And absolute, there is incapacity to reproduce child and is irreversible. So absolute means it is irreversible and there is incapacity to reproduce children. Sterility can be again physiological in extremes of ages and pathological. Causes are in males, it could be because of congenital anomalies like hypospadiasis, epispadiasis, or congenital absence of testes. Local diseases like azoospermia, oligospermia, exposure to X-rays, orchitis, inflammation of genitourinary tract, and varicocele. And physiological, I told you, extremes of ages. So, see, in all these cases, there is a problem in making this sperms. Okay, that is sterility. In impotency, the penile penetration was not possible. So both the things are different. Get it? So instead, see, potency, the patient can be impotent, but he can be sterile or may not be sterile. He may be sterile or he may not be sterile. Both the ways. Okay. The patient can be impotent or he may or may not be sterile. There is a difference. This is hypospadiasis. On the ventral surface, there is opening of the urethra. Epispadiasis, on the dorsal surface, there is opening of the urethra. See this. This can cause sterility. The production of sperm is affected. What are the causes of sterility in females? Similarly, like that of impotency, congenital causes would be maldevelopment, null development of vagina. Uterus could be absence of both the ovaries, uterus, conical cervix, and fallopian tubes. Then acquired anomalies like adhesions of the vaginal wall, vaginismus, we have seen this. Then local diseases like syphilis, gonorrhea, or general diseases like TB, malignancy. Psychological causes like fear, disgust of other act, emotional disturbance. And age. In age, there is no age limit like that in males. Okay. So, same things. We have seen most of the causes of impotency are repeated here. So again, a female can be impotent, but not necessarily she is sterile. The same thing follows here. See, these are the adhesions in the uterus. So basically, if there is adhesions, how the pregnancy will occur, right? Because of even though her cycles are proper, her ovaries are ovulating properly, that time what will happen? She may or may not be sterile, right? But because of adhesions, pregnancy is not happening. Medical legal importance of sterility is disputed paternity. The putative father may take plea that he being sterile has not fathered the child. So again, disputed paternity, like yesterday in importance we have seen, the father may claim that he is not the father of the child because he is sterile, right? So that is disputed paternity. Then compensation cases, loss of reproductive capability as a result of injury or occupation or surgical operation. Okay, so he can take claim for more money because there's loss of reproductive capability. Then plea for adoption. The couple can, plea that they are that he or she is sterile, and they can plea for adoption. Indication for artificial insemination. Very, very important that sterility is indication of artificial insemination. So what are the medical legal importance of sterility? It is disputed paternity, compensation cases, for adoption, and indication of artificial insemination. Now coming to sterilization. Sterilization is the process to make a male or female sterile without affecting his or her potency or sexual functions. Okay. So sterilization is the process to make a male or female sterile, that is infertile, without affecting his or her potency or sexual functions. So types of sterilization will be intentional, which are further divided into voluntary and compulsory, and then therapeutic and accidental. Okay. Types of sterilization is intentional, therapeutic, accidental. Intentional is further divided into voluntary or compulsory. So do we have compulsory sterilization in India? Yes. What are the sterilization techniques you know? Answer me. Have you ever heard of sterilization techniques? Yes, tubectomy, very good. Manan. Anyone else? Vasectomy, very good. Right. So that is sterilization. So you guys understand what I'm teaching. So we have voluntary sterilization performed on married person with consent of both partners, that is husband and wives. Remember, in sterilization you have to take consent of both the partners. In sterilization, you have to take consent of both the partners, husband and wife. In abortion, we studied that we have to take consent only of the female. So here you have to take consent of both the person, married people, that is husband and wife. Then there could be For what? For contraception sterilization. Okay. Voluntary sterilization could be for contraception sterilization to limit the size of the family. It could be therapeutic to prevent danger to the life of woman, or eugenic to prevent birth of child who is likely to be physically or mentally defective. Right. So see, similarly, we have seen this causes in abortion also, therapeutic, eugenic. Okay. So here also we have same things. Contraceptive sterilization to limit size of family. Therapeutic sterilization to prevent danger to the life of woman. And eugenic sterilization to prevent birth of children who is likely to be physically or mentally defective. So this was voluntary sterilization. Compulsory sterilization, it is performed compulsory on person by an order of state or government. Okay, it is not done in India. It was done in India during the time of emergency, but now it is not done in India. It is performed compulsory on person by an order of state government. It is not done in India. So what are the methods of sterilization? They could be permanent or temporary. Permanent methods in males and females are different. That is, in males we have vasectomy, as you all know, and then there could be deep exposure of X-rays to the testicle. So this is more disruptive. So we don't do this. We have vasectomy, a safer procedure. So that is done. So, and in females there is tubectomy, deep X-ray, exposure of ovaries can also be done, but this is not done. This is more destructive. So we go for a safer procedure, that is tubectomy. So permanent method in males is vasectomy and in females is tubectomy. The temporary methods are observation of safe period, coitus interruptus, use of diaphragm in females and condoms in males, spermicidal jellies, foams, paste, suppositories, intrauterine contraceptive device like copper T. Coming to artificial insemination. Artificial insemination is a short note, okay? And again, in your Viva, whenever you get a impotency certificate, you will find whenever there is a certificate for impotency, the questions are asked on artificial insemination as well. So what is artificial insemination? This is the process by which sperm is placed into the reproductive tract of female for the purpose of impregnating the female by using means other than sexual intercourse. Okay? Process by which sperm is placed into the reproductive tract of a female for the purpose of impregnating the female by using means other than sexual intercourse. It is used as assisted reproductive technology primarily to treat infertility. But it is increasingly used to enable women without a male partner, or single women and lesbians to become pregnant and to produce children by using sperm provided by sperm donors. Okay, so we all know about artificial insemination. Indications would be in males if there is incurable defect in the husband's semen, if there is premature ejaculation, RH incompatibility, impotency, abnormalities of penis, husband treated for cancer. Okay, and in females there is cervical mucus. The cervical mucus may not be enough to allow sperm to move easily, or it may be too sticky or thick. Uterine endometriosis or anatomical defect of uterus or cervix. So basically, all the indications of sterility are indications of artificial insemination. So you can write those. So these are the indications. What are the types of artificial insemination? It could be artificial insemination homologous, that is AIH, artificial insemination donor, that is AID, artificial insemination heterologous donor, that is AIHD. So what is artificial insemination homologous? That is semen of women husband is used. So maybe he is important, but he is not sterile. In those cases, we do artificial insemination homologous, and the abbreviation is AIH. Okay. Artificial insemination donor is semen from some unrelated donor is used. So as the name suggests, artificial insemination by donor. Okay. So here the husband might be sterile. Because of that, here they are taking help of a donor. Then artificial insemination heterologous donor or pooled donor, in which the semen of husband and that of the donor is mixed. Artificial insemination heterologous. Heterologous means different. Homologous means same person from the family, like from the of the husband. And this is heterologous donor, that is husband and donor's semen is mixed. Okay. It is also called as pooled donor. General guiding principles are, I told you have to take, like that for sterility, you have to take consent of both husband and wife of the person who wants, like of the couple who wants to get insemination done, and as well as that of the donor's wife. Okay, consent of both husband and wife as well as donor's wife is needed. Confidentiality has to be maintained both of the donor and the recipient. Selection of the donor after carrying out the semen analysis, chromosome analysis, testing of HIV and other sexually transmitted diseases. So while selecting, you have to carry out all this tests, that is semen analysis, chromosome analysis, testing of HIV or other sexually transmitted diseases. And after that, the donor must be less than 40 years of age, should have no relation with the recipient couple, should have children of his own, should be potent and fertile, should be of sound mind and health, and free from hereditary or sexually transmitted diseases. So all these things, these points, that the donor must be less than 40 years, should not be of any relationship with the couple, all these points are MCQs. Okay, should have children of his own, should be potent and fertile, should be of sound mind and health, and free from hereditary or STDs. The procedure should be properly explained to the donor and his wife. Okay. Physician should maintain relevant records of the donors. During the procedure, presence of disinterested witness, preferably a nurse, is must. So, a disinterested witness has to be there. What are the guideline principles? Consent is needed of both the recipient and the donors, wife and husband, both of them. Then confidentiality has to be mentioned. Selection of the donor has to be done as per the guidelines, and then procedure should be explained properly. You should maintain the records, and disinterested witness must be present during the procedure. What is the criteria for selection of donor? I told you same thing in the same slide. Should be less than 40 years, should be unrelated to the couple. He should have his own children. Race and physical characteristic of the donor should resemble as closely as possible to that of the husband. He should be disease-free, that is hereditary, HIV, sexually transmitted disease. So when can you carry out artificial insemination? It is carried out close to the ovulation. So because at this time there is maximum fertility, so it should be close to the ovulation. Then there is intracervical insemination and intrauterine insemination. Okay, that the ovum, it can be placed intracervically or intrauterine. So intracervically, It is one of the most commonly types of artificial insemination. It is quick, painless procedure, and the painless procedure that deposits donor sperm directly into the cervix. Okay, a painless procedure that deposits donor sperm directly into the cervix. And intrauterine insemination, in this, it is most commonly used artificial insemination performed by AIH method. And the intrauterine insemination is effective treatment for both the forms, for some forms of infertility. So mostly intracervical insemination is carried out, and intrauterine insemination is most preferred in artificial insemination by husband. Artificial insemination is successful only in 5% to 30% of cases, and this success rate increases with fertility drugs. Okay, if the fertility drugs are used before carrying out artificial insemination, the success rate are higher. Semen analysis to know the sperms are suitable for the technique. So I told you before you perform any artificial insemination, you have to do all the analysis. Semen analysis has to be done properly. Chromosome analysis has to be done. So these things increase the success rate more. So semen analysis is there, which to know the sperms are suitable for technique. Then success rate increases 70 to 75% pregnancy within 3 to 4 months of starting the treatment. So subsequently, it will increase. So starting May, you saw it was only 5 to 30%, but subsequently in 3 to 4 months of the starting the treatment, the pregnancy rate increased by 70 to 75%. What are medical, legal, and ethical issues related to artificial insemination? So, artificial insemination is not a ground for nullity of marriage, but it is ground for divorce. Okay, artificial insemination is not a ground for nullity of marriage. You saw in impotency of rigidity was a ground for nullity of marriage, but here artificial insemination is not so, but it is a ground for divorce. So he can plead for divorce. In case of widow, unmarried women, and in case of married women, when the husband does not adopt the child remains illegitimate. Okay. So, if the husband doesn't adopt the child, which is born of artificial insemination, the child remains illegitimate. So, all the legal things, like suppose if there's transfer of property, so those things he cannot claim for the property. So that is illegal. He will always be an illegal child. There is no statutory law for artificial insemination. Okay, so artificial insemination doesn't come under the law of legal law code. So there is no statutory law for artificial insemination. But we have an Delhi Artificial Insemination Act. Okay, but we have Delhi Artificial Insemination Human Act 1995. So what is this act? This act regulates the donation, sale, supply of human semen and ovum for the purpose of artificial insemination. Okay. So under this, all the donations, sale, supply, all the protocols are written. So this is the Delhi Artificial Insemination Human Act 1995. It is expected from you people to write this in your answers. Then RMP has to observe for written consent of husband and wife, test recipient for HIV 1 and 2 and other sexually transmitted diseases for doing the procedure, not to segregate XX chromosome for artificial insemination. This is also very important. Okay, few people, like in India, we have female feticides. So it is advised, it is under the Delhi Artificial Insemination Act. The RMP has to observe that he does not segregate XY and X chromosome for artificial insemination. So this is Delhi Artificial Insemination Human Act for regulation of artificial insemination. Then there are semen banks. So semen banking, again the requirement for sperm donors are same. He must be free from HIV, hepatitis B and C infection. He should not be less than 21 years and not above 40 years. Semen analysis of donors should meet the WHO criteria. Blood groups and RS status should be determined and placed on records. Okay, the same thing it is repeated here. Requirement of sperm donors. And regarding the bank, what we have to do, if you have a semen bank, you have to record all the donors. The records of all the donors must be kept for 10 years. Okay, so you have to keep a record for 10 years. The bank may advertise suitably. Record of semen received, stored and supplied should be maintained. Semen sample must be cryopreserved for at least 6 months before the first use. Then we learn about the term celebrate birth and celebrate motherhood. You all know about it. There are so many celebrities nowadays, you know, with the help of surrogacy, children are produced. So what is this? Surrogacy is an arrangement in which a woman agrees to carry a pregnancy that is genetically unrelated to her and her husband with an intention to carry it to term and hand over the child to the genetic parents from whom she is acting as a surrogate. Okay, so she's just carrying the baby till term, and after that, the child is given to the genetic parents. So that is surrogacy, an arrangement in which a woman agrees to carry a pregnancy that is genetically unrelated to her and her husband with an intention to carry it to term and hand over the child to the genetic parents for whom she is acting as a surrogate. So, a woman who is carrying a baby which is genetically unrelated to her is called as surrogate. So, this is how in vitro fertilization is done. First, the woman is given hormone treatment to stimulate egg production. Okay, so first she will be given hormones. Then multiple eggs are taken from the woman's ovary. In the lab, the eggs are mixed with the man's sperm cells in a culture dish to become fertilized. After that, the fertilized egg or embryos are placed in an incubator for 48 hours. And embryos are implanted in the woman's uterus or frozen for future implanting. So the implantation will be done either in the cervix or in the uterus. Then there is also cloning, creation of an organism that is exact genetic copy of that person. So we don't do this actually. Reproductive cloning, creation of copies, this is all again under study. Reproductive cloning, creation of copy of genetically identical human being, and therapeutic cloning, stem cells are used. So in sterility, you should remember the definition. Okay, then causes of male and female sterility. Then you should remember the medical legal importance. You should remember the types of sterility, the various methods used for them. Then you should remember the Delhi Act of Insemination. You should remember about the artificial insemination, its type, what are the different types. So that's all about today's lecture. Thank you so much.